Celeste Mercado first heard the rumor in the hushed stairwell behind the organ loft at the Kimmel Center. A percussionist from Temple whispered it between coughs of chalky rosin dust. There's a cracked bell beneath City Hall. Not the Liberty Bell, another one. If you ring it, you get what you ask for, but it never arrives alone. Celeste thought little of it then, but then 15, with restless hands that could sight-read Ravel as easily as she could braid her black hair. She had bigger problems. Juries at the Curtis Institute, a mother insisting she practice scales before indulging her nocturnes, and, most pressingly, the city-wide competition to compose Philadelphia's new civic anthem. The mayor wanted something bold for the semi-quincentennial celebrations. $100,000 scholarship, an orchestra premiere on the Parkway, the winner's name etched beneath the William Penn statue. Curtis' faculty, in a rare display of unchecked optimism, told Celeste she would almost certainly be a finalist. She loved the pressure. It fueled her like the sugary horchata her father made on Sundays. But by April, she had sketched 3 beginnings and abandoned them all. Everything sounded too derivative, half Gershwin, half the plastic brass jingle of Mummers on New Year's Day. A city of layered histories begged for something stranger, something that could hold both the red brick past and the LED future. She needed another ear, one tuned like hers, but fresher. She began to think, another her. Weeks passed. Finals loomed. Each evening Celeste took the L home past City Hall, the statues glinting like frozen fireworks against sunset, and each evening she recalled the rumor. Cracked bell. Duplicate realities. The idea snagged on her imagination as firmly as a burr on a wool coat. By the time magnolia blossoms browned on the sidewalks, she had decided, half daring herself, half joking, to find the bell. Philadelphia City Hall is a labyrinth, even in daylight. At its heart, a central court opens to the sky, and under that court lies a bowel's deep network of stone corridors, once meant for coal delivery and emergency shelters. Friday after classes, Celeste borrowed a janitor's badge from a Curtis friend who worked weekend custodial shifts. She told her mother she was sleeping over a classmate's row house. Then she took the Broad Street line to Walnut, surfaced by the cloth banners of tourist shops, and slipped into City Hall's south portal just as a docent tour exited. Inside, marble floors mottled the late sun. Scowling bronze heads watched from balustrades. Celeste kept walking as if she belonged, the badge flashing in her palm. A custodian vacuumed up paper confetti from the day's protest. He waved her through a service door. She closed it behind her and descended a spiral staircase where temperatures dropped 10 degrees between landings. The basement smelled of limestone and archival dust. She flicked on her phone flashlight. After 2 wrong turns and a scare with a motion-activated fan that roared like a dragon, she found the chamber. It was round, maybe 30 feet across. A disused coal room, repurposed during the air raid shelter, according to a fading stenciled sign. In its center hung the bell. It was smaller than the Liberty Bell, maybe 4 feet tall, but similar in make. Bronze darkened to molasses, a jagged crack from lip to crown. It dangled from an iron yoke bolted to beams whose wood had fossilized to stone. A faded placard read, 1876, Centennial Commemorative Bell, removed from public display owing to structural damage. Someone had scrawled in Sharpie beneath it, or something worse. Celeste raised a hand. The metal's chill leached through her fingertips. "What would you ask for?" she whispered, mocking her own curiosity. She thought of the anthem, of the harmonic cul-de-sacs she couldn't escape. "I want another version of me," she tried aloud. It sounded ridiculous, but the room's acoustics cradled her confession. There was no echo, only immediate absorption, as though the walls had swallowed the sentence and grown hungrier. Celeste braced herself and rang the bell. The strike produced a tone like no pitch she had ever encountered, somewhere between D flat and E natural, but warped in the middle. as though the note were a Mobius strip turning back on itself. It vibrated the soles of her shoes, pulsed against her sternum, and then died. Silence returned. Celeste laughed at her own silliness. She waited another 30 seconds. Nothing. Okay. Fairy tale over, she said, and headed for the exit. Halfway up the spiral stairs, she heard footsteps ahead of her, light, quick, unmistakably hers. The cadence she recognized from practice rooms when she paced counting measures. She froze. A girl her same height rounded the landing. Same olive skin, same hair but braided in twin plaits, not single. Same Curtis backpack, except its zipper dangled a tiny jangling Liberty Bell souvenir Celeste had never owned. Both girls squeaked in shock. The newcomer recovered first. Celeste Mercado? Celeste nodded, throat dry. The other grinned. Thought so. I'm Celia. Guess that means it worked. Celia explained in short, efficient sentences. She too was a Philadelphia-born pianist. She too had just rung a cracked bell. Only in her world, it was hidden beneath the old Reading Viaduct. When the sonic aftertaste faded, she found herself walking through corridors that coalesced into this staircase. Somehow the bell had folded their dimensions onto each other like sheets. Are we stuck? Celeste asked. Maybe, but how cool is this? Celia replied, eyes gleaming with opportunities. They spent 2 hours trading stories on a bench outside Wawa. Their timelines diverged only slightly. Celia's Phillies had won the 2009 World Series instead of losing. Her parents ran a food truck rather than a grocery, and she preferred improvisation to strict classical rep. They were kin in every way that mattered. Same sleepless hunger for music, same secret self-doubt. Do you want in on the anthem? Celeste blurted. Celia tapped a rhythm on her knee. Let's co-write. Dual credit across realities. Why not? They shook on it. Philadelphia's clocks marked midnight as they parted Celia to crash on Celeste's couch, Celeste to steal extra blankets from the hall closet. She felt buoyant. She had acquired a co-compositional twin. Surely the anthem would pour out effortlessly now. It did not. 2 days later, hunched over notation software, they realized they heard the city differently. Celeste's ear bent toward the clang of trolley wheels on Cape lines, old hymns from immigrant storefronts. Celia loved the hissing valves of SEPTA buses, the sub-bass wobble that seeped through apartment walls on Friday nights. Their motifs collided like mismatched Lego bricks. The melody grew unwieldy, leaping register with no rationale. Harmonies clashed. Well, they argued, stormed into separate bedrooms, and without discussing it, each returned to the idea of the bell. Celeste snuck out Tuesday at dawn. This time she stuffed earmuffs into her bag, brought a mallet for precision. She struck the bell again, a stronger blow. The warped / E note unfurled, and the stone trembled. She half expected City Hall to collapse onto Broad Street. Instead, the air rippled once and stilled. When she emerged, nobody waited on the staircase. She exhaled, disappointed. Then, at Curtis, she met her. Celia Mercado had shaved hair on one side, wore fingerless gloves, and spoke with a deliberate calm that made every sentence feel scored in 4/4. She announced that in her reality, where Drexel funded free conservatories, she was a composer first, pianist second, a prodigy with laptops instead of lyres. She had also rung a cracked bell. Hers was inside the Mutter Museum, stolen from a defunct church. Celeste did quick math. 1 bell strike equaled 1 dimensional twin. That meant, if Celia's bell brought them both here, Celeste's second strike had summoned Celia. And if she kept striking, more versions might surface, all within walking distance, like clones at a family reunion. She did not share that deduction aloud. Word spread among the newly triplicate Mercados. Philadelphia's anthem submission deadline was 3 weeks away. Celeste wanted partnership. Celia wanted open-source collaboration. Celia wanted sole authorship. A chorus of one voice, multiplied through technology, she said, tapping her temple like an advertisement for headphones. They scheduled a summit inside a rehearsal room. It quickly devolved. Celia presented a glitch-heavy electronic sketch that swallowed the piano whole. Celia countered with a modal jazz riff. Celeste layered a soaring chorale, hoping to glue the edges. The result sounded like Gritty tumbling downstairs with a boombox. They glared at each other across the scoring table. By nightfall, peace was impossible. Celia packed her MIDI keyboards and left. Celia pursued her own thread. Celeste sank into despair. The city's weather mirrored her inner turbulence. Rains hammered row house roofs, then reversed into rising mist. News outlets reported oddities. South Street storefronts blinking from one architectural style to another. Commuters watching their doppelgangers exit the subway one car ahead. Cracked bells were ringing themselves, it seemed, duplicating realities at random. Celeste suspected the connection, but dared not confess. Instead, she poured frustration into a solo draft titled Philadelphia in Triptych. It braided 3 meters, at one say 6/8, 4/4, and 5/4, without a common downbeat. Her composition teacher winced. Brilliance teeters on cacophony, he warned. Find the hinge. Hinge? Celeste thought. Bells were hinges between worlds. If she could align the realities the bells had split, maybe music would resolve too. First, she needed to locate the other bells. Using Google Books and a library card, she compiled references to cracked bells throughout Philadelphia's history. There were dozens. Bicentennial souvenirs left in attics, ship's bells from defunct navy yards, locomotive bells donated to parks. Folklore claimed each crack occurred the moment someone made an impossible wish. Few people remembered these bells. Fewer still could touch them. She texted Celia and Celia. Urgent meet at City Hall, basement tonight. Bring earplugs. At 10, thunder rumbled overhead, sheet lightning turning facade gargoyles into strobing monsters. The three converged outside the south portal, tension thick as the humidity. Celeste spoke fast. I think every cracked bell is locked on a slightly different pitch, a fingerprint of its dimension. If we ring more than one simultaneously, maybe the frequencies phase-cancel the duplicates. Or make worse, havoc, Celia countered. It's still sound, Celia added, brow furrowed. Sound obeys physics, mostly. Celeste unrolled a hand-drawn map. 9 cracked bells within a half-mile radius, including the Liberty Bell, tourist lines be damned. If we time the strikes perfectly, we can compose the world's weirdest chord. Maybe that aligns us. And merges us? Celia asked, suddenly wary. Or merges the anthem? Celia said with a half-smile. Musicians can never resist a strange chord. They agreed. Operation Consonance, Celia christened it. The next 48 hours unspooled like a heist film. They bribed a night guard at Independence Hall with Phillies tickets, borrowed a cherry picker to reach a bell bolted above a firehouse, convinced a rector to let them ring a cracked church bell at midnight by framing it as an interfaith ritual for civic unity. Each bell note Celeste notated diligently, a warp B, a flattened F sharp, a C natural coated in rust harmonics. She arranged them on staff paper into a vertical stack. The chord looked unsingable. It sounded, when her notation software played a synthesized approximation, like a sunrise splitting glass. Saturday 3:00 a.m. and became their 0 hour. Rain had finally broken, leaving the air electrically scrubbed. They stationed friends percussionists, night-old poets, a bike courier who owed Celia a favor, at each bell with synchronized watches. Saya set up a laptop in City Hall basement, feeding live phone mics into a software patch that would sample the combined ring and layer it into a looping bell. Celeste and Saya stood by the commemorative bell, mallets poised. Celeste's phone vibrated. All set. She gave the countdown. 3, 2, 1. She and Celia swung. Metal met metal. Across Old City, similar strikes echoed, a dissonant flock rising into sky. Each bell's idiosyncratic crack introduced uncertainty, microdelays, tembral wobble. The sound gathered layers, each partial interference, magnitudes of interference patterns swirling like oil in water. Sealer's software caught the signals, spat them back in phasing loops. Something shifted. The basement walls appeared to breathe, stone in, stone out. Celeste's mallet blurred in her vision as if vibrating across frames. She smelled salt marsh and snow simultaneously. Sailor shouted, "Hold on!" The cord elongated, became organ-sized, cathedral-sized, cosmo-sized. Then, with a soft reversal like film rewinding, the resonance sucked inward and collapsed into silence. Celeste found herself alone in the basement. She called out, "Celia, Sailor!" No answer. Panic pricked her scalp. She sprinted upstairs. City Hall's corridors glinted under emergency lights. An alarm beeped faintly. She burst through the courtyard doors into early dawn. Philadelphia looked unchanged. Wet asphalt, stray neon buzzing, but something felt cleaner. The air seemed to ring with the residual memory of the cord, like water after a struck crystal glass. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Come to Rittenhouse. Bring the score." Score? She glanced down. In her hand rested crisp manuscript pages titled "Anthem for a City of Always." The handwriting looked half hers, half someone else's. She flipped through. The music was perfect. Motifs melted into each other with impossible grace. Trolley clanks formed triplet ostinatos under gospel-sweet brass. Subwoofer pulses laced counterpoint around string quartets. Glitch electronics injected polyrhythmic sparks. It was Celeste, Celia, and Sealer braided into one voice. Heart racing, she caught a lift to Rittenhouse Square. Morning sun trimmed the building's gold. On a bench under the giant elm sat a girl still. Celeste, yet not. Her hair was half braided, half shaved. She wore fingerless gloves and classical concert black. She smiled as Celeste approached, identical dimples forming. "Name's C.M. Mercado now," she said. "Single initial. Figured it covers all bases." The duplication had resolved into consolidation. Their variants had merged memory streams inside one body. Celeste felt it too. She recalled chords only Salah had devised, jokes only Celia had told. She perceived her posture balanced between improvisational spring and disciplined poise. Instead of confusion, she felt equilibrium, like a tri-legged stool planted firmly. "Is the city okay?" she asked, though she and her felt redundant now. CM nodded toward the fountain. A boy chased pigeons, laughing. Nothing fractured, no double shadows. Clock towers chimed on time. "Scepter is a mess per usual, but singular." "We did it." Visible Celeste, or the integrated self, sat and studied the score anew. It ended on the exact pitch the commemorative bell had produced, the Möbius D-flat/E. Not resolution in the traditional sense, but an endless turning, a sonic reminder that Philadelphia was always more than one story, more than one people, stitched by contradictions that nevertheless cohered. "You think they'll choose it?" CM asked aloud, then laughed. Because of course she was both asker and listener, the answer bubbled up from all her facets. Yes, they will choose it because it belongs to them already. It's been echoing in the spaces between cracked bricks and cobblestones for centuries. We just finally wrote it down. 2 weeks later, inside Verizon Hall, she stood backstage as the Philadelphia Orchestra tuned. Reporters buzzed about the mysterious young composer who had submitted the winning anthem with no bio beyond C.M. Mercado. Philadelphia, age 15. The Mayor's Cultural Commission tried to pry more information. She deflected politely. Would they believe the truth? That she was a harmonic composite of branching timelines, stitched by bronze and chance. Better to let the music explain. The conductor raised his baton. Strings opened with a trolley ostinato. Brass entered with a Liberty Bell-shaped melody, drooping at the fourth measure like a crack. Electronic samples whisked through surround speakers, recordings from West Philly stoops. Chinatown arches, Italian market banter. When the final Mobius note hung in the hall, it felt less like an ending than a portal still ajar. The audience erupted. Some cheered, some cried. A few looked around as if seeing faint transparent versions of themselves applauding in parallel rows. Maybe they were. Cracks never seal completely. They just teach light how to bend. Backstage, CM Mercado pressed a palm to her sternum. She felt residual vibrations there, as though a bell lived under her ribs now, ever cracked, ever ringing. After the reception, she took the gown-wrinkled Broad Street line north. City Hall towered above, William Penn's bronze hat wreathed in sodium light. She thought of the bell below and wondered what would happen if anyone rang it again. Probably another song. Probably another possibility. Philadelphia, city of perpetual prototypes, would withstand it. Its bricks were mortared with dissonance. Still, she slipped past security one last time and descended into the basement. The commemorative bell awaited, silent. She laid 2 fingers on the cool bronze. "Thank you," she whispered. Not a wish, only gratitude. And walked away, leaving the bell unstruck, its potential energy banked for some future dreamer whose melody required a mirror to be heard. Outside, Dawn's first trolley screeched. CM Mercado began humming along, shaping the rhythm into something new, ready whenever the city asked her to write again.